Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
There's been a sizable change in our lives. I've complained to you about our broken TV, which our silly cat had broken. So we now bought a new TV, and you know what? Learn to use OTT platforms also for the first time. So we are getting to see a lot of things which normally would have gone under the radar for us. And I have not deliberately chosen that metaphor, gone under the radar, because we are talking about something linked to the Air Force. So we talk about three things today. One, about this film on Gunjan Saxena, the Kargil girl. Then we talk a little bit about the mess that the Nagaland peace process has become. And third, we talk a little bit of cricket. We talk about two cricketing personalities, both in a somber note, but different kinds of somber note. One, a somber note, but on a high, that is somebody, Mahendra Singh Dhoni, going away after a long and distinguished innings, and then someone else on a somber and sad note, which is Chetan Chauhan or CPS Chauhan, who passed away unfortunately because of COVID just as we begin to record this one. So first of all, the film which we caught on Netflix, now that we have cracked the code of watching OTT platforms. Now, we watched the film with a lot of anticipation, and I had read a lot of reviews, and I have no issue with fictionalization of a film story or running fiction as a film story. But when you pretend something to be close to a real life and a real life story, or close to real incidents, and also mention a real name of a person involved in those incidents, then there have to be some limitations to how much liberty you can take with the facts. In fact, there has to be some limitation to how much liberty you can take so that you are not just called an idiot. So people who made these films, I am sorry to use strong language, but they have trivialized aviation, military aviation. They have trivialized Indian Air Force. This is not so much about the politics of the film, the gender politics. It is just bad movie making, and this is just nonsensical, and this shows very low IQ. Also, if the idea was to say that, look, more women should come and join the forces, it does exactly the opposite. In fact, this film's second title should be "Why You Must Never Join the Armed Forces If You Are a Woman." Again, on that there can be arguments, but let me just look at facts and areas where liberties have been taken, which are, in my view, as somebody who's read military history, followed the militaries, and watched more military movies and read more military history books than books and movies of the other kind, I can tell you that this is a national embarrassment. It's also an embarrassment for Indian cinema to have produced this for something so contemporary and so recent. There have been many fictional movies made on Kargil, but those were fictional. In this case, you've used the name of a real character who's widely respected, Gunjan Saxena, whose pictures with her cheetah helicopter wearing a AK-47 around her neck actually inspired a lot of people, and she did real work there. This movie, however, is something else. So here are several issues with the movie, and I've talked to many people, including a wonderful former Indian Air Force officer called Squadron Leader Deepa Nailwal. Deepa is from the first batch of women officers in the IAF, 1992. Until then, when the first batch came in, they were not allowed to fly. In 1994, the first batch of flying women cadets was recruited. So it's not as if somebody was the first in 1999. By 1999, which is when Kargil took place, a lot of women were flying already for Indian Air Force, helicopters as well as transports. Now, of course, they are flying fighters also. Now, the problem with this is, first of all, with this selection process, or this Services Selection Board, SSB as it's called. Now, so many of us read up on it when we were passing out of school or college, because where I come from in the north, this was one of the chosen areas to go to early on. Now, no SSB process is the way it has been made out to be in this case. This has looked arbitrary, this has looked crude. Those interviews are not taken by two officers, those are a bunch of officers. In any case, there is always a psychologist where it comes to final selections. Then medical examinations do not take place the same day, they take place a couple of months later. Then even while you may be told at the end of a trial that you are selected, you don't yet get selected, because similar trials are being held with groups all over the country, and it's only after compiling that list that a final merit list is made out. So the whole thing has been trivialized and made to look like arbitrary and frankly nonsensical, and also it's an insult to the character Gunjan Saxena in the movie, that she keeps landing up for her pilot training courses in Delhi without checking minimum qualifications. So she first comes thinking it's the 10th, then she is told it's the 12th, then she passes 12th, she again comes to check out the course, she is told no, now it's graduation, and then it goes on and on like that. This is frankly nonsensical. This is almost suggesting that people who become pilots ultimately are idiots. They are not idiots, they are smart people, and these are smart young people these days. They check out everything before they apply something. To imagine that at that point a bright woman who got 94% marks did not even check the basic qualifications for pilot training before landing up for admission insults not just our intelligence as readers, but also insults the Gunjan Saxena character. Once again, I was talking with Deepa, and Deepa says, look, and she's been through all these selection processes and training, etc. And how do I know Deepa? I will tell you. Deepa was from the first batch of women officers in the IAF. She specialized in human resource management and did very well there. So this first bunch of officers, after they left the Air Force completing 10 years, which was the maximum allowed to them at that point under Short Service Commission, she applied to us at the Indian Express for our HR head's job, and she joined us as our HR head then and served for many years with great distinction. Regrettably left us then and joined Hindustan Times in a key HR position there. So she is somebody who's been around. So she pointed out to me that, look, how ridiculous it is that this girl, the Janhvi Kapoor character playing Gunjan Saxena, gets 94% marks, and she and her friends are downcast because they think, oh, with 94% marks, how can I go and become a pilot? Parents will not let me. That suggests that those who go to become pilots again are zeros or they are duds. That is not the case. Very bright people, people with good academic records go to the armed forces, especially as officers. So the whole thing becomes so trivialized that it begins to look worse and worse and worse. Then you come to Kargil in combat. Then there's all this stuff of misogyny and all that. I've spoken now with half a dozen of former and 2 serving women officers in the Air Force, all of the rank of squadron leader or wing commander. Now they've all said that, look, each one has had some instance a little bit like this, but to collect them all, and these are women officers of a vintage going over 2.5 decades, and they said to collect them all as the experience of one person is a disaster. And also, all right, like one of them said to me that when we first went in, we were the first batches, there were no toilets for ladies, but immediately, because there were toilets for officers and men, we were told you can use toilets for officers and you can go inside and bolt these from inside, so there is no big deal. And in the course of time, those things came in because large organizations were getting used to this. The other thing that they all object to, and that I agree with, having seen the forces and the Air Force from close, this idea that somebody, a flight commander of a squadron is the squadron's karta dharta. he has to, or increasingly she also, has to make sure what training is taking place, who's flying where, who's logging how many flying hours, what are the duty rosters, etc., etc. If it's a combat squadron, who's on combat air patrol, all that is done by him. He is the key person. He cannot arbitrarily cancel planned sorties, because cancelling planned sorties like this require an explanation, and to do it day after day after day would shake up the Air Force at very high levels, and I think somebody will spend a lot of time in the wrong place for doing something like that. So those things are an impossibility, and it is not a situation where it's one person against the other. The other thing that I notice in this is a young officer like Janhvi Kapoor. I mean, she may be the heroine, and she's acted well, frankly, I must say. Contrary to some of the reviews that have attacked her, she's actually done quite a good job. But you cannot expect in the forces, including in the Air Force, for an officer at that level to talk back to her juniors like this in a defiant way. There can be disagreements, you can seek time separately. In fact, if there's anything you might complain about in the forces, is that the room for dissent is not that much. But to be able to do this in public is ridiculous. It never happens, and again sets a wrong example. And I am surprised there. I am not blaming Gunjan Saxena, the real one, for any of this. But if she was a consultant for this film, maybe she wasn't looking when all this was being done. Then you go on, and then you have some really incredibly stupid situations. For example, this pilot, the Gunjan Saxena character, gets upset, is sullen at mistreatment by male seniors, and one night at Udhampur Air Base, Udhampur is a fairly forward operational air base. Udhampur is the headquarters of the Northern Army Command, which controls all of the Kashmir and Ladakh region. It's a very crucial command, it's a very crucial helicopter unit there. Now, from that base, because she gets upset, she's a serving Air Force officer by now, a junior one, but a serving officer. She gets upset, she writes a leave application, drops it in her commandant's box in front of his office, and disappears at night. In the middle of the night, security at Udhampur Air Base opens the gates for her to walk out with her bag. Where she goes from Udhampur Air Base at that hour, where can anybody go, and where could anybody go, say in mid-90s, where this is late 90s, where this is supposed to have happened, is your own imagination. But more importantly, in the armed forces, in the Air Force, a serving officer disappearing like this, leaving a leave application without telling anybody what happened, leaving station, reaching home, check out with people in the forces. This will be an act of desertion. Wherever the person goes, the police accompanied by Air Force police will be there very soon. And there will be terrible consequences. It will not be you are sent a letter saying your leave is cancelled and then you come back and you start flying again. So once again, not only a bad example, okay, it's not the job of filmmakers to set good or bad examples for anybody, but this just insults everybody's intelligence, because that is not how things happen. Then you go ahead and then you see other kind of dramabazi, because it's a movie. But again, must a movie insult our intelligence? This character's brother, the fictional Gunjan Saksena's character, based on the real Gunjan Saxena, her brother is also in the army, senior to her, older than her, but his main concern is to make sure his sister is not brought to any harm. So when she lands up at the base serving the Kargil area with helicopters, he also lands up there. What's he doing there? His full-time job, it seems, is to keep an eye on his sister. He is a serving major, Punjab Regiment, an infantry major at Kargil, wasting his time protecting his sister at her base. Can such a thing happen in any armed forces, least of all in the Indian armed forces? And then to think, in this army of 13 lakh people, that's the only place where this Gunjan Saksena's brother, Major Saab from Punjab Regiment, will land up and doing nothing. watching helicopters land and take off, and each time telling his sister, see, I will not be there to protect you when you go somewhere. This is, even if you want to do fiction, at least once again, I am using that expression for the 10th time now, do not insult our intelligence. It doesn't happen. In fact, I am surprised the Raksha Bandhan thing did not take place on the helicopter park there. This was an operational situation. Shells were falling. Nobody was letting brothers come and protect sisters there. All the brothers and sisters were there to protect all the rest of the brothers and sisters who were not wearing uniforms, people like us, and not carrying arms. So once again, a complete trivialization. And then the operations. All right, this is fiction. You can take liberties. But if you do, don't use a real person's name. You used a real person's name. That person flew Cheetah or Alouette, it's a version of Alouette helicopters for casualty evacuation. Did a great job without a doubt. But those helicopters were not involved in combat. None was shot down. In this film, 2 are shot down. No Cheetah, Chetak was shot down in that war. No pilots were taken hostage, helicopter pilots were taken hostage by the Pakistanis. No other helicopter was shot down where Gunjan Saxena would have gone and rescued her flight commander. Again, you want to make a story, some Vijay Jasus, Chanda Mama, one of those stories, you can do that, but don't use a real person's name. And why should a real person lend her name to this? I don't understand, but I also don't understand how the world of movies work and what kind of contracts are signed there. So it's also unfair and unkind to those who actually suffered casualties and those who actually exposed themselves to danger in combat. So Indian Air Force, just for our recollection, in that war suffered 4 casualties. That is, 4 aircraft were lost. They were those 2 MiGs, a MiG-21 and a MiG-27. That is Flight Lieutenant Nachiketa, taken prisoner of war by Pakistan, and squadron leader Ajay Ahuja, who also ejected, was caught and shot in cold blood. In fact, a park in central Delhi is named after him, not far from the central government offices complex in Delhi. Now, after that, 1 helicopter was shot. That helicopter was a Mi-17. Mi-17 is a 2-engine helicopter. Cheetah is a single-engine helicopter. This Mi-17 was a helicopter gunship or a combat helicopter carrying out attack missions on Tololing. There were a bunch of helicopters and the Pakistanis there fired a volley of Stinger or Stinger equivalent missiles at them. They evaded many. This one hit the helicopter and that crew was unfortunately lost, and their names, you can't do all these and forget their names. Their names were Squadron Leader Rajiv Pundir and Flight Lieutenant S. Mohilan. They were the pilots, and Sergeant PVNR Prasad and Sergeant R.K. Sahu, I think from Odisha, they were the gunners. All 4 were lost. So once again, you fictionalize something which has many consequences, which is not a good idea. There was a 4th aircraft that was hit in that war, but fortunately that aircraft, it was a Canberra, it was a photo reconnaissance Canberra. It got hit in one of its engines, but it landed back. The pilot was able to nurse it back to base and the aircraft was recovered. Nobody was injured. So no other aircraft was brought down. So once again, this completely elaborate and unnecessary fiction was built. Now, very few films based on military issues remain true to facts. We know that Air Force is complaining about it, and Air Force complaining about it is justified because this is a complete misrepresentation of life in the Air Force and of what happened, using a real officer's name and claiming that that real officer was involved in the planning and authentication of what has happened. Then folklore has emerged around this film. For example, while Gunjan Saxena, to be fair to her, never claimed that she got a Shaurya Chakra, but I think as part of the build-up for the movie, a folklore was built that she won a Shaurya Chakra. She did not win a Shaurya Chakra because everybody who participates in an operation does not get a medal. So it's no shame that she did not get a medal, but she did not get a Shaurya Chakra. But if you Google now Shaurya Chakra, Gunjan Saxena, you will find stories in respectable publications from the Hindu, ANI, everywhere, saying that she won a Shaurya Chakra. She did not, and she did not claim it either. So this is now glory thrust upon them, but these mythologies are being built. Again, don't do it in the name of a real person, because it makes all the others who were with her at that point feel rotten, and that can't be the intention. At the same time, while the Air Force complains about this, and they have a reason, it's also true that much else which is fictional and nonsensical, frankly, with very little relevance to what actually happened, is hailed by the armed forces and the establishment also, because that is flattering. So look at Uri, the surgical strike. What happened was nothing resembling that movie. There was not that spy bird, nothing of the sort. And there was no Yami Gautam. So nothing of the sort. The whole thing was fictionalized, but because it suited the government, the powers that be, and the armed forces, they adopted it. Even Prime Minister in his campaign would use lines like, "How's the Josh?" and everybody will say, "Hi, sir." Similarly, border, mostly fictional. Talk to people who participated in that war. I had a long conversation with Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri, who got a Mahavir Chakra, who was heading that, commanding that post, did a marvelous job. But he always said, "Look, this embarrasses me and my colleagues, because nothing of this sort happened here." This was a very tough situation, and we fought very well, but very different from what it is. So when fiction suits you, you accept it. When it doesn't suit you, then you complain. Nevertheless, I will complain about all fiction, and this fiction is particularly bad fiction. In fact, in India, we haven't really made a great military history film. The closest we came to making a really good film was Hakikat in early 60s, after 1962. Very talented people were involved with it, from Chetananand to Balraj Sahni to Kaifi Azmi, who wrote the lyrics. But even there, and that was essentially constructed around the battle of Rezangla in Chushul, where a company of the Kumaon regiment fought almost to the last man. But there also, on the 50th anniversary of that battle, I featured on Walk the Talk 2 of the 6 survivors of that battle, 6 out of about 120. And these 2 I met in Rewari, and we recorded with them, and I asked them how authentic was Hakikat. They said, "Sab काफ़ी ठीक थी वो, ऐसे ही हुआ था, लेकिन एक गड़बड़ थी." क्या गड़बड़ थी? साहब, सबके बैजेस देखिए, सबके बैजेस पर लिखा था पंजाब. पंजाब तो वहाँ नहीं लड़ रही थी, वहाँ तो कुमाऊँ लड़ रही थी. So it is tough to get authenticity with these military history stories, but when you claim authenticity and when you have a real name and a real advisor and you get it all wrong, then I think it is all unforgivable. Now, I must also acknowledge that while the armed forces are sensitive to these things, but they can also be reasonable. Look at Amir Khan's Rang De Basanti. Before it was cleared, top officers of the Indian Air Force saw it. It was embarrassing to the Air Force because it talked about frequent MiG crashes, but the Air Force let it be. So it is something which has to be addressed by both sides, but really this film, I don't know what to say to reviewers, except that maybe they are not so familiar with how the forces work, or maybe everybody is bored right now, very few films are coming out, so why knock the odd one that comes out. But this one, I would say, is a national embarrassment, and I would spell that with N and E capital. So bad. Nothing to do with the fact that Pankaj Tripathi is brilliant as always, Janhvi Kapoor is very good, but really, this is not done. Now, 2 more things in passing. Nagaland. The governor of Nagaland, in his Independence Day address, has used strong language. He's reminded Naga people that they have missed the peace dividend. And he said that is because of some vested interests. Now, while he has said that, a bunch of Naga insurgent leaders have been in Delhi saying that remove the governor, who's the chief negotiator or interlocutor on the centre's behalf, that he is upsetting things. But here is how I declutter this, and here is how I see this situation. I think the problem is that these insurgent groups have not done much fighting in a very long time, for a couple of decades in fact. And they have acquired big vested interests and structures where they are now extorting in the name of what they call as tax collection. So in fact, the joke I find in Nagaland circles is that a new intelligence officer comes there or a new journalist comes there and says, look, how many factions of NSCN are there? I know IM, I know K, I know couple of others, but how many others are there? And the next guy says, Saab, aap yahan ek paan ki dukaan khol lo. The moment you say you are going to open a paan ki dukaan, you will meet all the factions, because all of them will come looking for extortion money. So that is the problem in Nagaland right now, and on this I think the governor is right. This whole idea that the center will give us sovereignty and our own flag and shared sovereignty, our own flag, our own constitution, it was never the deal, it was never on the table, it is never going to be on the table. So anybody who is using this is shifting the goalposts, because peace doesn't suit them, because peace will then mean having to turn over your weapons, which means having to stop your extortion business. So that is the situation in Nagaland. And finally, cricket. Dhoni has retired. Much has been written about him. In fact, even on the print.in you can see what Lokendra Pratap Sahi and Rajesh Tiwari have written there about him. But I will just say a couple of things in passing. One, he was the first genuine small town character who took over Indian cricket and gave everybody the belief from small towns that you could come into the national cricket team, become rich and famous. Kapil was from a small town, although we Chandigarhwalas like to think that Chandigarh is not quite a small town, but still Chandigarh at least had a cricketing tradition. Chandigarh is the home of Haryana Ranji team forever, and that was a strong Ranji team. But Ranchi, Jharkhand has no such tradition. Also, Dhoni is somebody who never had a coach. He had a football coach, as you might have seen in the movie. So he was somebody completely divorced from the coaching manual. So he also brought in the culture of unconventional cricketers who were not bound by the coaching manual. Although in India, coaching manuals were considered very, 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 very important. And since Dhoni has gone, he left behind a good team. India has done better in Test cricket, little bit better in Test cricket. They won a series in Australia, they won a Test match in South Africa, which had not been done before. But they have not won any ICC trophy since Dhoni retired. So the last ICC trophy India won was Champions Cup in 2013. Now the T20 as well as ODIs, India has not been winning any of the ICC championships. So you can feel that absence, and you can see that wicket-keeper batsman slot is not yet filled. That having said, now Chetan Chauhan, he is one of the favorites of our times. Now most people now only remember him as a politician. He was a minister in Uttar Pradesh. He died of coronavirus today at Medanta on the outskirts of Delhi. He had been flown in from Lucknow in critical condition. Now he was, many would not remember him as the most successful opening partner with Sunil Gavaskar. He partnered Sunil Gavaskar in 59 innings, and those days we didn't play that many test matches, and scored more than 3,000 runs while opening with Sunil Gavaskar. He was also one of those remarkable batsmen who had very little technique but enormous courage and a big heart, and trademark red eyes. He had the meanest and I would say the least technically correct square cut. He would play somewhere in the air, a kind of half uppercut much before Sehwag came in, with a flat bat, and he would do it to the fastest bowlers in an era which had no helmets, nothing. And if when he was hit, he would attack the next ball. Very courageous cricketer. And one sad thing about him, he got many scores in 80s and 90s, but never a test 100. He got 16 scores of 50 plus, but never a test 100. So rest in peace, Chetan Chauhan. Without you, India's big revival in late 70s, early 80s would not have taken place, and frankly, you would have got the odd 100 also in Pakistan, but for the quote unquote brilliant Pakistani umpiring those days. So you shall be remembered, Chetan Chauhan, so much more for your cricket than for your politics. And a footnote, and the most important footnote, or something you might write on his tombstone, he was batting with Gavaskar in Melbourne, and both had a long partnership in a very tough series. And that's when Gavaskar was given out wrongly, in his view, LBW to Dennis Lilly. As that happened, Gavaskar got angry and walked off, and India were conceding the match. That is when, while the manager, Wing Commander Durrani, played his role, Chetan Chauhan also counselled Gavaskar that this was not the thing to do. Now that the umpire had decided, let it be, and the rest of them put their heads together, and India won that test match. So that would not have happened without this great fighter called CPS Chauhan or Chetan Chauhan. Originally he played for Maharashtra, then for Delhi in Ranji Trophy.